So hi everybody, my name is Ellen, and over the course of these videos I wanted to tell you a little bit about mindfulness, how to bring mindfulness into your training and for race day as well as DCT approaches. So I wanted to start off with a little story about what mindfulness could potentially do for you in your training and on race day itself. And it comes from a friend of mine who I didn't really think was into mindfulness at all, but I remember one day he kind of sat down beside me and asked me, he said, you know, Ellen, tell me a little bit about what this mindfulness is more about, because I just had this experience at the weekend with it. And I was like, oh really, tell me more about it. And he told me about how he was doing a race. I think it was the Lost Sheep. And he just finished the swim and he was on the bike. He'd started off and he found that he was thinking about the swim that had just happened, and he was also thinking about the run that was coming ahead. And he realised in that moment that his attention was not on the bike. He looked down at his cadence monitor, his heart rate monitor, all the gadgets that he had lined up in his handlebars. This guy likes his gadgets. And he realised, he saw from that very, very, obviously, that he just wasn't doing his best rate. And something popped into his head about that mindfulness talk that he had listened to that week. And he thought to himself, you know what, I'm going to try a little bit of mindfulness here. So he did. He practiced what he knew about it. He brought his attention into that moment. He stopped thinking about the run that was to come. He stopped thinking about the swim that had just happened, and he just decided to concentrate on what was happening in that moment. The feel of his legs going up and down on the bike, the sensations that he was experiencing in that moment, and he kept bringing his attention, his mind back into the moment, into that kilometre. And he found that after a couple of minutes of practicing that, his cadence went up, his heart rate came down, his power outage went up as well. So he ended up doing, he said, one of his best races ever. And he got a PB on the bike anyway, at least, and I think maybe on the run too. So he was very happy, and he thought, you know what, tell me a little bit more about it. And I thought that's just a brilliant story to start off, to give people a little bit of an idea of what mindfulness can potentially do for you in your race. Of course, mindfulness isn't just purely for your own race, it's also for everyday life. But over the course of these couple of videos, I just want to give you a flavour of how you can bring that into your training and into your race day as well. So what is mindfulness exactly? Well, much in the way that you go to the gym and that you practice your running, your swimming and your cycling, you also need to practice your mental training as well. And everybody gives an awful lot of attention to those three disciplines, and we put in a lot of hours every week in the pool and outside running and on the bike as well. But oftentimes we don't give any attention to the mental side of it. And mindfulness has been proven to be the best form of mental training that there is out there. And they've proven scientifically that it helps people to really dig deep, and endurance athletes to achieve their best as well. So the science is there to back that up, but I'm going to be talking more about the scientific side of it in a later video. So mindfulness, what is it exactly? Well, it's a very simple definition, and mindfulness is described as the practice of bringing your attention into the present moment with full acceptance and non-judgment. It's a very, very simple definition. It's a little bit more difficult, of course, to implement, and that's why you would go generally for an 8-week course to learn more about it. But how do you implement it just very, very simply in your everyday life? Well, you come to the present moment. It's defined as being the practice of coming to the present moment with full acceptance and non-judgment. How do you do that? Well, we do that with our breath and our senses. We do that because our breath is happening in the here and now. We do that because when you ask yourself, what do I see, feel, hear, taste or smell? What are the sensations that I'm experiencing in this present moment? It brings your attention into the here and now. And your energy isn't scattered as such into the future or into the past. I'm going to be, for each of these videos, I'm going to be recording a formal practice, which is the sit down, close your eyes, you're turning your attention inwards kind of a practice, which is the best way to practice mindfulness. And I'm also going to be recommending to you an informal practice, which is a way that you can bring it out into your life. So it's very simple, it's a very easy approach. As I said, the execution of it is a little bit more difficult because we're told to always live in the future, to never really be in the present moment. But with time and with practice, it becomes a little bit easier. What it's not. So a lot of people say to me, I could never do mindfulness because I have so many thoughts, and how could I ever stop my head from thinking? And that's kind of what stopped me from ever really investigating mindfulness and trying it for many, many years. And the scientists have proven that you have 80,000 thoughts a day. I don't know how they measured it, but they've measured it and they said you have 80,000 thoughts a day. I reckon some days I have 100,000 thoughts, and a lot of people say the same thing to me. You've over 80% of those thoughts are negative, so you have 60,000 negative thoughts every day. So isn't it madness to think that you could sit down for maybe a 10-minute mindfulness practice and have no thoughts? It's absolutely impossible. You cannot stop your mind from thinking, and you need your mind to think. You need to be able to plan, to strategize, to think about what you need to do in your life. But the thing is we give far too much attention to our heads and to our thinking. So mindfulness is about practicing learning to observe our thinking, learning to come out of our thinking and coming to notice our breath and our senses. We don't try and stop the mind from thinking. We don't try and slow it up, or speed it up. We don't try and slow it down. We just notice it. We learn to sit and observe it as such. So it's not about stopping your thoughts. It's not about controlling your thoughts. It's not about having a particular experience. A lot of other people tell me that they think it's hippie and that you have to sit cross-legged. You have to probably have the incense going and the Buddhas going as well. That's absolutely not true. You can be sitting in a chair just comfortable. You could be lying, you can be sitting cross-legged, of course, if you want, if that's comfortable for you, but sitting in a chair is absolutely fine. And I'm going to be talking about the posture in the formal practice that I've referred to earlier. And it's not about having to believe in anything. It's not about being religious or believing in the Buddha or believing in Buddhism. It's just about learning to notice your breath and your senses and learning to live more in the present moment. It's more of a philosophy rather than a religion or anything that you have to subscribe to or believe in. So as I mentioned earlier, there's two ways to practice. You've got the formal practice, which is the sitting and closing your eyes practice, and there is the informal practice. I'm going to be recording, or I have recorded, 3 meditations, 3 mindfulness practice, 3 formal practice for you to use, and they're going to be available on the website. So if you check out the website, you'll find the information there and the links to it. They're about 10 minutes in length. You don't need any more than 10 minutes of mindfulness a day, especially when you're starting off. It's very easy to do and everyone can do it. I really encourage you all to give it a try, just even for these 4 weeks coming up to DCT. And then there's the informal practice, which is the way to bring mindfulness into your everyday life. And my suggestion for this week, or my kind of little bit of a mindfulness tip for you this week, is to just notice your senses for moments throughout your day. Like oftentimes we go out throughout the day and we don't notice what's actually happened. So just for moments in your day, stop and notice, what do I see, what do I feel, what do I hear, what do I taste, what do I smell? Just use your senses and notice where your breath is at. Nothing else more than that. It can take a minute, it can take 5 minutes as you're doing that, but just moments throughout your day. Just stop and to notice. So that's the end of the first video. I hope you've enjoyed it. And just to give you a recap, that mindfulness really is about the mental training, and it's a really, really valuable tool for training yourself mentally to be in the moment for peak performance in life as well as in triathlon, of course. And it just takes 10 minutes a day.